Hi, everybody. I can't hear anything.
Hello, Sam. How are we doing this morning?
I still can't hear anything. I can't hear.
Turn your volume up. You should be able to hear me. I have everything unmuted.
There. Well, sort
Turn
of.
your volume up.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh.
So, yeah. Good morning. How are we doing today, guys? Q Canada, long time no see. Glad to see you're here. Morning, Kalamazoo. Good morning, Lori.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing? We are live. All right, Sam?
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Anne from Massachusetts, Tennessee. Yeah, it's been a little while, but we're gonna do the Johnson & Johnson thing this morning.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if my sense of humor is intact enough.
I know, but we're gonna try.
Okay.
So I know things have been kind of difficult, but we're gonna try to keep the humor a little bit on the bright side, and we're gonna go after Dr. Fauci this morning.
Okay, that sounds good because
he's a dirtbag, and
yeah, he is.
We are definitely having a lot of fun with Dr. Fauci at his expense. And you want to know something even funnier? The mainstream media is shredding him.
I know. The way they should have been.
Did you hear Tucker Carlson last night or the night before?
I didn't. I literally have been not.
So
not
Tucker Carlson literally shredded. Like I was on Facebook a little bit, and I will say Facebook because I can. But I was on Facebook a little bit, and I was watching Tucker Carlson's clip where he's going into his intro, and literally sat there, and he's like, "We had him on, we believed him." At the beginning, and it is coming out that he has not been truthful with us, and he just kept going on and on and on. And yeah, it was pretty epic to watch him just destroy him.
That's good. He needs it. He destroyed his own credibility.
Well, he destroyed his credibility back in the 90s. Come on, let's not be too
romanticize this too much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but he destroyed his credibility so long ago. And yes, Lori, I agree they better fire his butt. I'm not supposed to say that on air, but I think I can say fire his butt pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, the guy's credibility's been shot to crap, and it's his own doings.
Right. Well, it is. I mean, he is for a very long time lived with the luxury of being able to say things that are not backed by science, say that they are backed by science, perform actions that are complete violations of the code of ethics when you are offering medical advice in the public, And in doing that, he has while doing that, he has enjoyed the protection of the media. All of these things are things that he should have been ripped apart for long ago. And the media is only now getting around to ripping him apart. Well, you know what? They should have done that last year. They should have done that when his story.
Remember when I first got my first? Oh wait, the first strike, the Health Freedom Conference, and then they gave me Then when I got my strike and I was gone for a week or a couple days, they said that YouTube gave me the sense that, oh, you're spreading medical misinformation and all this. And I was talking about the S protein and exactly what it was and how it worked and all of that. And I had probably over a dozen trolls jump on and say, you know what, you don't know what you're talking about. You all this, that, and the other thing. And then shortly thereafter, I got my second strike. And yeah, all of it because I was spreading medical misinformation. So now that we're finding out that it truly was not medical misinformation that was spreading, I challenged YouTube and I sent them an email and I challenged YouTube to reverse the 2 strikes that I have received when talking about the efficacy of the vaccine and the supposed medical misinformation in regards to the S protein and how it works. I would like to see them reverse those 2 strikes because the last time I checked, it is not medical misinformation anymore. And some of the world's top scientists were saying that it was built in a lab. But of course, I'm going to get my 3rd strike and they're going to remove me from the platform because that's the way it goes. They are antithetical to science and actual information that is working. Good morning, Patriot Lady. Cactus Candy, who is he? Yes, Fauci.
Yeah, and YouTube's just trash. I mean, that's
and then I had a troll I was over on Gab, and I shouldn't say he's a troll, but I posted over there that we have our YouTube and a Facebook alternative, and this guy comes back and he's like, well, I prefer a site where the videos actually work. And I wanted to just shred the guy. And then he had the audacity to call me. And I had already looked him up on Facebook. I had looked him up all over the place just to know exactly who he was. And people use the same usernames pretty much everywhere they go. So what did I do? I just typed in the username. All of a sudden, he started populating up. And the guy, when he called, I asked him, I was like, so what do you do for work? He said, well, I work at a gas station. I said, and you're telling me that you know more about designing and building websites than I do? You're working at a gas station. Okay. I said, some of the guy that actually wrote the code for YouTube is the guy that's working for me. So it was kind of funny when the conversation was just absolutely asinine. But yes, there are a lot of people, it looks like, that are excited to see you, Sam. So
it's good to be back.
Clothing shopping. Winx, I think is definitely some fun for you. My wife, she would absolutely love to go clothing shopping, but it is the way it goes. But if you need to take a break, just let me know, Sam.
I'm good.
I know there's a lot of people were concerned about you, and we were talking this morning, or a couple days ago, I should say, about the initiative that we are going to push for.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to talk about it some? Or not at this time?
I would like to, but I want to. How can I put it? I want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it in such a way that I do not hurt the people that I care about. Because this is even more so than my experience. This was the experience of other members in my family more. This wasn't my father. This wasn't my husband. So I want to be specifically vague about some things.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, we still need to abide by health information and trying to keep things very opaque in regards to patient care, especially when it's dealing with people and the U.S. healthcare system with the HIPAA regulations and all that. We want to try to be as opaque as possible.
Yes.
But
not just offensive. I don't want to hurt them.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing when we were talking about guidelines and different things and having standardized guidelines.
Yes.
It does matter in regards to winks. You can't see anybody back out because there are
plenty.
Because you came in after everybody had commented. You can't see anything yet. But yes, there is right now on Twitch, we have 53 people there. So, but I mean, circling back, as Jim Psaki would famously say.
Yeah, Biden doesn't know how to tie his shoes. I'm not worried about his opinion of Fauci.
That is funny.
Thank you.
But going back into that, when we set up guidelines, okay, there's a process, guys. And I'm gonna kind of go into a little bit of the process in regards to how do we get these guidelines passed. First of all, we have to remove the emotional aspect, because it is hard on not only just a family members, but it is hard on everybody all across the United States when there is things that happen in the care of quote unquote hospital to a certain standard. Then it causes undue duress, especially when you, as a clinician, looking at it from a 30,000-foot view, this is what could have been done. This is what should have been done. And when it's your own family member, it hits you a lot harder. And that's kind of why we for a while Sam was off, and I knew it was going to take a little bit of a toll, and I think she understands now why we had that discussion.
Yeah. And I appreciate it, Daydream, but I think I'm okay for this part. I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that I'm not going to go into a specific and say that something wasn't followed the way it should be, or something wasn't done the way it should be according to the guidelines in the state that I was in. I don't know what their guidelines are. It's not the state that I practice in, and each state, I'm assuming, has its own guidelines for provision of care at different levels of care, be that hospice, hospital, home health, nursing homes. Each department of care will have its own guidelines as to your nurse-patient ratio, your intervention schedule, things like that. So I'm not being not familiar with the guidelines of that state. I'm not here to criticize it or to criticize the individuals who provided care and say that they didn't do it right. I don't know what right is in that state. What I do know is, as much as I have worked hospice care in my state in the past, it was a different experience, not just on the receiving end of hospice, although that is a different experience. But it was the provision of care and the scheduling of care was different from my experience. And so it did surprise me a little. And because I've noticed that there's a difference, there was a difference in what I had expected would be done and provided and what was done and provided. I think we need to have a standard, a federal standard for the provision of hospice care. And having been through it now on both sides of it, I think I have a good idea of what I would like that standard to be. And I'm going to tell you right now, the standard that I would like it to be is going to be expensive. It's an expensive standard because I would like round-the-clock nursing care, even at the house. In fact, especially at the house. One-on-one, a nurse at the bedside at all times. That right there is a massive financial undertaking for any provider, for any state, for anything. And you know what? I don't care. Do it anyway. We have demonstrated just in the past few months that we are willing to spend crazy, stupid amounts of money to other countries for ridiculous crap. And we have our own people, our own loved ones here, and we're failing them. Our healthcare is failing them, and our end-of-life care is failing them. And that shouldn't be. We need to reappropriate some of those funds, recapture some of those funds. Gender studies in Pakistan, not a priority. And they shouldn't be. So I have goals for hospice. I have an opinion, and it's my opinion. But I have an opinion on what hospice care should entail. And I have seen that hospice care does not necessarily entail it, and I would like that to change.
So I am actually going to let you know, because I didn't talk about this. We didn't talk about this at all prior to the show. So this is, or quite frankly, at all. But there has been an individual who has stepped forward and literally told me, he said, "You guys create the system. I will finance it 110%. He said, I will I will throw $100 million with $100 million into developing the chain for hospice care.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I will do that out of my own pocket. So I am going to, over the next couple days, over the next couple weeks, after we start going through a lot of the administrative side, you and Nurse Bear and Lori start working together, developing these into a standard that we can present. And we will, after we get that all taken care of, we are going to be announcing the formation of an American hospice company, all American products. Everything that we use is American, and you will be the person at the top. So that is what I wanted to break to you on live, because it is a thing that I do believe in. I do believe that we need to have standards, and we need to set ourselves at the, if we're going into this to change the system, we have to be that change. And I think we've always, that has been the number one thing that we've talked about from the onset of this, starting this program, that we have to be the change that we want to see in society, which means we have to go out of our way to, whether we're setting up a company, gaining the clientele, all of that. We have to be that change before we can actually push the legislation. So that's when he told me that he is willing to finance 100% of it, and that all we have to do is come up with the guidelines and everything and get everything set up. That is you. That is you, Nurse Bear, Lori. You collaborate. You get that stuff worked up. Take responses from people who have had to deal with end of life care for their loved ones in other states, so we can get a whole approach to the situation. And then once we get that done, we will announce the formation of a company, and you will be the person at the top.
Thank you. Tell him I said thank you very much.
I will do that. And over the next couple of weeks, we will have multiple phone calls, but I knew it was going to be an emotional one for you, but I think it's very critical that people understand that I'm not here to just talk about the issues. Talking about the issues is just a small portion of what I do. Funding and making things happen, enacting change, whether I'm behind the scenes, whether I'm in front of something, we have to enact change. And when we, the companies I'm starting, the companies that we're doing and we're building out, whether it's fullstream.live, whether it's fullstream.net, whether it's a new organization that is focused on hospice care, whether it's a new hospital, whatever. What we're doing is we're focusing on changing people's lives and changing people's ideas of what the American medical system, what America is about. Because when we take an oath as a nurse, as a doctor, as a certified nurse practitioner, as a medical professional, we take an oath to do no harm. The government gives out over $3.6 billion a year in grants to help further hospice care. There is no reason that we as providers cannot tap that and utilize it to defray a cost for our family and for our, not for our family, but for the public at large. We need to be able to help them. And that is 90% of what I am about. The other 10%, yeah, do we like to make money? Do we like to make sure that the companies are solvent? Absolutely. But people see what we're doing, and people are generally going to want to donate. They're going to want to donate money for what? To help us administrate and build what we're doing. So, as for the doctors and stuff like that, I know Nurse Bear's working on that as well to help facilitate a lot of this. But guys, changing lives is what we are about. We are not here to enrich ourselves, because enriching ourselves doesn't do what we need to do. It doesn't serve a purpose. When we focus on the issues at hand, like hospice, like hospital care, like different things like that, when we focus on people and their care, the money doesn't matter, because the money will be there. And if you want to take a look at a case study that was done that proves exactly that, look at St. Jude's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They focus 100% on the care of the patient and not the monetary, but yet they are one of the largest organizations in the world.
Yep.
So I know that's not what people came here to talk about. We're going to get into Fauci's emails here shortly, but I want to know what you guys are thinking in the chat. So go ahead, light it up. Let us know what you're thinking. I know it's kind of an emotional time, but I hope you can appreciate for the gratitude that I think a lot of people are going to have towards what we're doing.
Patriot Leader, I'm sorry to hear about your brother.
Yeah.
Again, that is something that in hospice care currently, hospice care basically hands 95% of the care of the patient to the family member at home, and the idea is to provide a comfortable, non-stressful, a good death at home. When death is imminent, there is no other option. There are no interventions. We cannot save a person. All we can do is ease them while they pass. So, in part of that is encouraging the family to take part in this care and to provide the care. I mean, it does provide for the grieving process of the family. It provides for them to be able to spend time with their loved one instead of being in a hospital, some cold and different environment. They're in the comfort and the safety of their own home, and that is good. The problem is that as the more advanced stages of the need for hospice care occur, there's a fallout between the care that the patient needs and the care that is available. And it's not just warm bodies. It is that they need someone with the expertise to look at the situation, see what is going on, and know what the intervention is that's needed right then, right there, to keep them from experiencing a massive increase in pain that they're about to experience, or to know when to initiate these extra measures, the measures to help to keep them calm if they're not breathing and they're not exchanging oxygen well enough. We don't want them to experience the fear that comes with that. We want them to remain calm. So you begin medicating them for that fear, pre-medicating them for that fear, so that they will not ever experience that. But you need to know, you need to see, and you need to be able to see what is coming. And when that happens, you need to have interventions already in place that okay, I see this is happening and this is happening, and in the other body systems, there's been a turn in this body system, or a turn in this body system, and that means that within the next 2 to 3 hours, we're going to start seeing this. I need to medicate him right now for this, so that they never experience that. And that is something that a person's husband, a person's wife, a person's children, they're there at the bedside, they're willing to participate, but they don't have the expertise to see these things coming and head them off. And I think that having a nurse in the home, someone who can come in, who can do an assessment very quickly and say, okay, this is happening, or this is about to happen. I'm going to medicate this person for this, and then I'm going to slip back out of the room, go back into the kitchen or read my book, or go back downstairs into the basement and, hang out until the family comes and says, something's wrong, can you come see? That's what I mean by 24 hours of care. You need to have that expertise on hand right then. And I understand that, like I said, it is cost prohibitive. Right now in our healthcare system, it is a massive financial burden to have a license at the bedside at all times. And I don't care. I do not care. We blow so much money on ridiculous crap. We need to reappropriate some of those funds, because this isn't ridiculous. This isn't crap. This is people who are in a profound stage of the need for care. And their families are in a profound stage of the need for care. And this is a universal need. There is not one single person in this country who is not going to, at some point in their lives, have a family member or a loved one who needs hospice care. And there's also not one single person in this country who is not going to be potentially a hospice care patient. If you are alive, someday you will die. That's how that works. So every single human being in this country is potentially a hospice patient. This is an absolute need, and we are not addressing it. We're not standardizing it. We are not giving it the respect and the dignity and the attention that it deserves. And I'm not saying this in the vein of criticizing any care that was provided. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is there's a difference in hospice care situations that I've witnessed, and there shouldn't be a difference. Hospice care should be hospice care, should be hospice care. You should know that when you send your loved one home, or when you speak with your grandmother, your sister, your your brother, your whoever it is, and say, yes, hospice care at home is a good thing in this situation. You will be in good hands. Take them home. Take them home and have them pass at home surrounded by the faces of their families that they love. We need to know that we're not lying to them. We need to know that we're not sending them home to I don't want to use the term abandon, but we would be abandoning the one-on-one bedside care that they need. So we need to know that we're not sending them home to have no professional supervision and on the spot intervention. And I'm not talking about prolonging life. That is not the point of hospice care. I am not talking about curative intervention. That is not the point of hospice care. The point of hospice care is absolute comfort for the patient, comfort for the family. And there are situations where the family misunderstands the point of hospice care, and needs to be guided through when it is appropriate to give that medicine. That yes, I know it seems like, I know you're scared to do it, but it is appropriate to give that medicine right now. And sometimes families just need reassurance that it's okay. It is okay to give that. It is okay to give that. He needs it. They need it. Give it. Yes, counseling for the patient and family through the grief cycle also. And I will say that the only thing that I'm going to say about the past week is that the social worker, and I'm not going to give her name, who was involved was wonderful. Wonderful in the grief counseling.
And then you had a wonderful...
Give me a minute. Give me a minute, Shane.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. So just so you're understanding this right, you're wanting this all across the whole country, the same standards? Absolutely. Because you see, guys, the important thing is people don't understand that every state has different standards. So long as they meet the Medicare standards, it's quote unquote okay enough. But that's not okay enough in the aspect that we can just sit there and take all of this and just it's okay. Because if it's the same standards across every state, there is a aspect and a follow. You will follow these guidelines. Otherwise, you don't get the funding or whatever. And that's, if you standardize it, then people across the United States can expect the same standard of care. And that is important. And yes, it is very hard, especially when you have experienced recent loss of a loved one. And it is not something that I was originally anticipating to get into, but it is it is the way that sometimes our conversations go, and I didn't want to have her get upset, but yeah, it looks okay.
Okay, thanks everybody.
There's somebody that wants to say hi to you, Sam.
Oh, hi. Hey, I have not seen your pretty little face in a while. How you doing?
Can you say hi, Sam?
Hi. Yes. What you doing, kiddo? You helping Daddy today?
She's holding her little baby.
You got your baby? Oh my goodness. What's her name?
I don't know that she even knows the name.
Gotcha. That's okay. She can have a name later. Baby.
But,
yeah.
Hmm? But we can change subjects if you would like.
We can. I think I'm okay. I can always do with a good Fauci vaccine, but I think I'm okay. Just for a second. It's really when you remember the kindnesses that you that it becomes the most hard. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. Going back to that, it is important. Can you go upstairs, please? It is important to remember, guys. When people receive the same standard of care all across the United States, it's a big deal because it makes it so much easier. Once hospice is involved, you are typically releasing all other care. Yeah.
Yes, hospice is initiated when you have reached the point where the physicians have determined that there's nothing that they can do. There is no further intervention that they can perform that will not cause more harm than good, and that the person who is ill has no chance of recovery, and it is expected that they will pass within the next, I believe, was it 2 weeks?
Well, the standard set out in Medicaid is 2 weeks. It's 14 days is what the guidelines are that I've seen anyways. But some states it's 7 days, some states it's 10 days. There are some states that it's even 5 days. So it really depends on state by state. Again, going back to that, but they can't go over that 14 days because that is a federal standard.
Yes.
So but the federal standards do not state like the level of palliative care, any of that, and that is what needs. I'm not for universal health care, but I am for having a federal standard of care. We have it in the hospitals.
We do.
We cannot deny a patient regardless of how much money they make. That is something that is a federal standard.
There are other things that are standards of practice. I mean, that's why they're called standards of practice.
And that is a federal mandate. That is something that is coded in law, and we don't have. It's end of life care. It is considered a health care aspect because it is dealing with a dying patient. And because there's pharmaceutical prescriptions that are handed out, it falls under the healthcare coding. So
Yes.
that's the reason it's considered that.
Mm-hmm.
Inpatient hospital is between, or hospice is between 5 and 14 days. Home hospice is certified for usually between 90 and 180 days.
There's a big difference in those. Okay.
Yeah. So that a nurse, she works on the administrative side, so she's going to know those standards a lot better than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that you guys are going to be working together on it.
Me too.
Because from the clinical side, you and I could pretty much figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But on the actual administrative side, there's so much stuff that even I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason you bring in experts from different parts of the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
As I said, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm assuming that they vary because my experience with what I've performed and my experience with what I saw are quite different. I'm assuming that they are, and the very variable in this case would have been one state to another state. I'm assuming that the difference from what I saw is based on a different state standard. I could be incorrect. It could be that there's no state standard. It's all federal standard, and it's just that federal standard is extremely vague. I don't know, but I know that there is a chasm of difference between what I expected to find and what I did find. And this is not criticism of the care that was performed. Again, it's just not as I expected, and I would like what I expected to be what everyone experiences, because I was able to affect change by being there, but only because I have the expertise to do it. Nurse Bear, state standards and nursing shortage. Okay, so you know what? We've got. How about a nursing program for hospice nurses?
Do a 2-year collegiate course at the local community college where it's just dealing with hospice care.
Yes.
Or
even
if you integrate that into like an LPN style or
mm-hmm.
LPN style course where you're just dealing with hospice or respite care.
Yes, there's no care that I performed this week that is not completely within the scope of practice of an LPN. Completely within their scope of practice. It is, however, care that required the expertise of at least an LPN.
Yep.
A layperson's not going to know. They're not going to know to do that. And it doesn't matter how many booklets you send home with someone who's losing their husband.
No, it doesn't matter. I can send somebody home with a 360-page manual on how to care for their passing loved one, but nobody's going to take the time. I could send a 2-page booklet. Nobody's going to take the time to read that 2-page booklet.
Even if they do,
it's not going to be detailed enough.
And they are losing their family member. The stress that they are experiencing is going to make it so that they cannot absorb that information. They cannot process that information. That's why we send patients home with teaching. Like when we discharge them from the hospital, we do the teaching there at the hospital, but we send them home with basically the same thing that we just said, because we know good and well they're not ready, and we're going to give them the teaching and they're going to absorb that much of it right now. But then in 2 weeks, once they have processed everything that's going on, things have calmed down, they can read back over it and absorb a lot more because they're no longer in the state of heightened stress, and they can learn at that point. Giving some teaching and guidance to a person who is in a state of acute stress, and a state of acute stress that is not on a path of reduction, but is on a path of increase, until its zenith with the passing of their loved one. That is not the time to teach. That is not a teaching curve. You do not learn when your stress level is going like that. And that is what is happening in hospice care. Of the family member of the patient person who is dying, their stress level is just going up. That's not a teaching opportunity.
No, and I think that's the biggest focus. And healthcare workers are scared to be in the rooms now due to COVID. I think you're starting to see a flipping of that. Because I was actually at the pharmacy this morning. I went there, and I was basically told that, I'm sorry, Shane, you were right. I was wrong. And I have this fancy pharmaceutical degree stating that I am an expert. I was like, well, I'm glad that you have that degree, but yet I have a degree as well, and I told you this. You knew I had the degree, and you still argued with me. So,
and Patriot Lady, that's a very good concern as far as like the term limits on hospice care. I don't want you. What I don't want you to do is mistake my state of being for what working hospice is like. I have worked hospice cases before, and they are
is real.
The burnout is real.
So,
but this burnout is acute because my participation in a case of high needs hospice was with that of a beloved family member.
Yeah.
And not someone that I can detach from and step away from.
And that is the most important thing, guys. Honestly, for me, I was there. There were quite a few days where I actually was on the phone with Sam for hours. So I kind of got a little bit more of a blow by blow, and because I am not attached, I was able to walk through the things that a clinician would be looking at and would be talking about, and processing that information. Because if you're emotionally attached to a patient, whether they've been on your floor for a long time, several weeks, and you've became emotionally attached because of the constant need for care, whatever, and whether it's a loved one, it doesn't matter. No family should be put in that position to where they're having to care. Even if you are a nurse and you can emotionally detach yourself, there is still not that great of a detachment, because it is still your own family.
Yes.
But
yes.
Go ahead. I'm not sorry I did it. Specific point should have a time limit. You know, I agree in certain aspects. There are certain nurses that do very, very well in the hospice field, and my hat's off to them. I cannot do that for decades. There is a nurse that I know. She has been at the bedside of some 4,000 patients when they have passed. And I asked her, I said, so what is it about this? And she said, Shane, the key to not having the burnout is to have the psychiatric help and have the ability to have those nurses decompress through psychiatric therapy or talking to a psychiatrist or whatever. So, and that's something that for me, it is important to recognize that there is an innate trauma that happens to our nursing staff, but the family members as well. And when the family members get in the care, they're getting the grieving counseling and all that stuff, but a lot of the nurses do not, and it's the nurses bear that brunt, which is the reason you are seeing a lot of you're seeing studies coming out showing that 93% of all the nurses worldwide are functioning alcoholics. That's a scary percentage. But they are, and they're talking about trauma nurse, not the broad spectrum of nurses. But when you're dealing with trauma and they're turning to the bottle, it is actually degrading the quality of care year over year. And it's because they are bearing the brunt and they're not getting the care themselves that they need to process the trauma each and every single time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But having in that vein, identifying these areas of nursing that are high stress areas, I think that it would possibly be a very good idea to, along with this standard of care for hospice, to explore the idea of having a nursing program, a nursing licensure and education that is geared specifically toward hospice. Because honestly, hospice, it should almost be a specialty. It certainly deserves the respect and the gravity of being a specialty. So I think that that is something worth looking into. It's a nursing license that would qualify you to work hospice, be that in a hospice facility, or be that at home, as in home hospice. But and in the hospital, we nurses, we can perform hospice care in the hospital setting. The hospital setting is not usually ideal. Is not often ideal. Don't die in a hospital, people. It's just hospital's not a good, comforting and wholesome place to take your last breath. If you can do that at home, do it at home.
And Patriot lady, if your daughter ever needs somebody to talk to, I will send you my number. Have her call me.
Mm-hmm.
Nurses that are dealing with this, I will talk to you. I will try to do everything I can. I'll talk to you and I'll listen. Because it is not something that we as nurses, quite honestly, I've done 400 bedside vigils, death watches, as you will. And I was one of the statistics. I was an alcoholic. I was a functioning alcoholic. And when I quit drinking, I was able to deal with the pain and the trauma even more. And then I actually sought help psychiatrically. And it wasn't until after I had a couple of really bad accidents that I was caring for the patient from the time that they were taken from the accident scene to the time that they passed away, which was about 3.5 weeks. That finally, I couldn't handle the stress anymore, and I stepped out. And I literally left the medical field because I wasn't dealing with things well enough and it burned me out.
Mm-hmm.
Kalamazoo prepper, enjoy your vacation.
Yep. Enjoy Kalamazoo. Yeah, I did the whole I had stress, for sure. Oh, 100 followers, that's wonderful. I opted to I've been eating dessert for breakfast for 2.5 weeks now. Not sorry about that a bit. Luckily, and I have no idea why, my jeans still fit, and that's freaking amazing at this point. But now that I'm home, that's that changes. I did not have dessert for breakfast today or yesterday. But I think the problem is that I didn't just have dessert for breakfast. I had dessert for breakfast, and then I had dessert for a snack, and then I had dessert with lunch, and another snack in there too, and then I had dessert after dinner. But you know what? It made it so that I felt a little better and could keep going. So that's what I did. I am very lucky that, and the rest of the time less so, but I'm very lucky that in general, when faced with this kind of stress, I will opt to eat my pain instead of drink my pain or smoke my pain.
Yeah,
but
that's one addiction I haven't been able to get rid of.
But not everybody is that lucky. Some people need to medicate their pain away, or to drink their pain away, or to smoke their pain away, and it is eating its way through our nursing workforce.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I do. I'm not fasting. Not gonna happen. I'll do fasting like for health reasons now, but under that kind of intense stress, nope. I'm gonna need some chocolate.
But yeah, guys, what we are doing, I do appreciate each and every single one of you guys showing up today. I appreciate everything that you guys have done. If you guys want to support the broadcast, you can feel free and donate. Otherwise, buy stuff over at the PNN store. Or how about join fullstream.net, fullstream.live.
Mm-hmm.
We do want you guys over there. We want to see you guys there. But as always, guys, you have a pen and a microphone. Use it. The silent majority can no longer stay silent. God bless you guys. God bless the United States of America. And we will see you tonight at 7 p.m.
Bye, everybody.